couple days ago, I put out a little review for I'm Still Here, a movie that's been making waves at both the Golden Globes and the upcoming Academy Awards. And like 10% of my subscribers watched the video. But the Brazilians came out in full force. Because they know a great film when they see one clearly. And so do I. Which is why I gave I'm Still Here a very glowing recommendation for people to go watch. And it is also why I'm back with another video. I promised I would do a spoiler video if I got some views on that one, and you better believe I did. And I appreciate all the new subscribers. Hopefully you stick around and watch some of the other content here. And I also listen to the audience and appreciate the recommendations and the comments on that video, which is why in the future, I plan on covering Central Station as well. But for now, I'm going to dive into this film, a movie that's brilliant, powerful, touching, heartfelt, breaks you down, builds you up, breaks you down again, but eventually ends on a bittersweet note, full of hope, full of some solace. Preamble aside, let's get to it. I'm Still Here, spoiler breakdown. Okay, I lied. I'm not talking about the movie yet. I need you to just do me a favor really quick and subscribe if you haven't. And hit the notification bell. That's paramount so that future videos by me show up in your feed. How else are you gonna know what to think about the new Captain America video unless you subscribe? Okay, now let's talk about this film. A movie that opens in 1970 or 1971. I saw the movie one time. I apologize if I get some dates wrong. I will absolutely butcher some names. Okay, I did look them up. I did listen. I tried to pay attention to the enunciations. I can assure you it's not going to matter. I'm from Minnesota, so I already say English incorrectly a lot of the times. That's just the nature of it. I'm Still Here wisely puts the focus for about 30 minutes on the Paiva family. We're going to be spending a good chunk of time with them, learning their ins and outs, learning their passions, their hobbies, things they like to do, places they want to go. And one of them is, the eldest daughter is going to be studying abroad at Europe. But the other four siblings have plenty to look forward to, mainly a beautiful new home that is in the very early stages of construction. Their father, Rubens, is an architect. He's also referred to as an engineer. But at one point, he had a political background, and that's very much going to come back into focus as this movie goes on. This actor, Selton Mello, does a terrific job with the performance. You believe this guy as a father. You grow to love this man as your own. And when things go inevitably bad for the family, you will find your heart breaking anytime there's a reference to this man again. But let's get there. All right, the focal point of this story is going to be told through the wife, the mother of five. This woman's name is Eunice, and she's played by Fernanda Torres, who's up for Best Actress this year, and who should absolutely win Best Actress based on most of the movies I've seen. Demi Moore is a high contender. I can tell you, I've seen The Substance twice. I really like that movie. Fernando is far better. And that's not to discredit Demi Moore, who put in a great performance, but this is just leagues above. There's more nuance here. There's just more going on with the character. Because she doesn't just play this character one way. We see her younger, in her middle age of life with these kids. We see her start to grow older, and we eventually end looking at this woman in her late 80s. Now, I don't know much about the historicity of Brazil, but apparently in the 1970s, things were not great. They were under a dictatorship. There was a regime rolling down the streets in tanks trying to find people that they considered enemies within. And oftentimes they would target people that were innocent, but they deemed a threat. Eunice Paiva is one of those men. Now, this is based on a true story, which automatically makes this film even tougher to watch. But I didn't know that going in. I didn't know that until the credits rolled and we saw some of the black and white portraits of the real people. By the way, the casting here is phenomenal. These guys look very close to the originals. Oftentimes, at least with American films, the actors will be like 50% better looking than the originals. That's just the nature of the beast. But no, they did a really good job here. As bad as my Brazilian history is, my Portuguese, believe it or not, is even worse. Thankfully, the film is presented in gorgeous English subtitles, so I was able to understand everything they were saying with 100% clarity. In 1962, Rubens was elected congressman for the Brazilian Labor Party. His primary focus was to weed out corruption and propaganda. He found some issues, things got really bad, and he voluntarily left his post, leaving Brazil altogether, only to return many years later, hoping to raise his family in the place that he loved and grew up in. Unfortunately, this place he fondly remembers is not quite the same. And perhaps you could say it was ignorance, but he chose to stay, hoping that he could fight the powers that be through back channels, getting the word out on the streets with a few close companions, and making a change from the outside instead of within. The powers that be caught wind of these actions and arrested him on a false premise, claiming he was one of those evil communists. We had that same problem in America for a while. Hell, we still have that problem today, but now it's thrown around like a fun buzz term, I guess. Now, most of the stuff I explained about Rubens is in the film, although it's kind of more background noise because the focus of it is more on his wife and the children. And I think that was a wise decision because these are the more sympathetic characters that have to witness this terrible tragedy in real time. And what this is going to do to them in the future is almost as bad as what happens to Rubens himself. A few men swing by the house for a nice little chat with Rubens and tell the family, hey, he's got to come with us for a while. Now keep in mind, how I'm saying it is far more welcoming than what they do. They come off more like henchmen in a mob movie. Mr. Paiva plays along. He even goes upstairs and puts on his Sunday best so he can head out for this so-called interrogation for a few hours. He'll be home in time for dinner. But in fact, he will never return home again. It's the last time anyone in his family will see him. And the real tragedy is their oldest daughter isn't even there for that. She's off on her own adventures, living life, being young, experiencing the music and the culture from a faraway place. You know, the trouble with being a good person is it's a lot easier to be bad. And so when you try to do the right thing, all the wrong people will get in your way. And they'll accuse you of things that they themselves might be doing. Or 10 times worse. So Rubens, a man that seems good by all accounts, will live out his final days being tortured and beaten to death in a prison, never able to say goodbye to his family, give them closure, or even let them know what is happening. And the only reason this family is able to get through this is because of Eunice, because she wisely keeps her younger ones in the dark, since she herself doesn't really know what's happening, although she can probably guess the worst, and definitely the colleagues that she has made over the years have told her such. There's still a chance, there's still hope that she will one day see her husband again and her kids won't grow up fatherless. And she keeps this family happy. She keeps this family moving by the simple act of just telling them to smile. A simple concept, but one that a lot of people have a hard time doing. It's not natural to wake up with a smile on your face. You actually have to force it. And when times are tough and life gets hard, the last thing you want to do is put on a happy face. But Eunice does this time and time again when they're strapped for cash because it's under her husband's name, who has been detained for no reason. She tells her family to smile while just moments before she was given an interview to a reporter telling him that her husband is probably gone for good. She will even make the hardest decisions you have to, which is leave your dream house with a beautiful oceanside view. Get rid of your housekeeper that you've known for many years and love, and take them out of Brazil to a safer location where they won't be hunted down by these awful individuals. But before all that happens, she too, of course, has to be tortured a little bit. She and her second eldest daughter are also taken into custody just a day after Rubens is. And she will spend, I believe, a couple weeks there, rotting away in a cement room, but nothing but a piss bucket and probably one or two shitty meals. She will be questioned daily, trying to flip or rat out those she loves. She will even see herself being put in their little enemy book. She will hear the cries and the screams of other people trying to get out, being tortured, fighting back, even by just the simple act of singing a song to pass the time. They even put a fucking bag over her and her daughter's face so they wouldn't see where they were going. So they could spend every agonizing second wondering if they were going to be shot or thrown off a tall building somewhere. all the while still knowing nothing about the whereabouts of her husband. The first time this movie hit me hard was when Eunice was finally able to go home after spending a few weeks in solitude. She gets to her place. She checks on her kids in the middle of the night, and then she goes to shower and get all that grime and that crap off of herself to rinse away the awful experience once and for all. And then you see the daughter peeking around through the door, unable to hold back her excitement. She runs to her mother's arms, they embrace, and that was a powerful moment, one of many you will get throughout this movie. The next morning, we immediately see her wake up to her other daughter looking her in the eyes, watching her mom sleep and just appreciating her beauty. And the fact that she's back home in her bed again. The little ones run into the room. They all jump around. It's just a family moment, the kind you don't see often in movies anymore. And it's not that difficult to do, people. Oftentimes now, especially with modern Hollywood films, people say exactly what's on their mind, like they're reading from a script written by someone who doesn't know how people actually talk. But in this movie, we get real interactions. People talk over each other. They don't say exactly what's on their mind. They show it through their actions or through just the facial features that they express. None of this bullshit like, this is how I feel. Now tell me exactly how you feel and how this evil dictatorship has done us wrong. We know it. We can see it. We're not stupid. This film appreciates it and respects us. There are so many little moments in this movie too that I appreciate as being a father of two myself. For example, the Paiva family goes to the beach, which is basically in the backyard. One of the youngest daughters loses a tooth by just simply ripping it out, as anyone does at that age as a child. Just get this stupid thing out of here. The dad and her find a spot in the sand and they bury it, padding it up. And the daughter asks him, "Dad, how are we gonna find this again?" And he says, "I paste it out." In which I was thinking, man, this guy's good. He's gonna remember that? I don't know if that works out. But as she runs away to be with the other family, he quickly grabs it out again, smooth as silk, and puts it in a little canister for later. It's just a good parenting moment. And even though he's unable to finish the trick later on, the mom actually will. She'll find the tooth and she'll hand it to her daughter. And this is a great scene because she then assures her child that, hey, I know a few things myself, okay? You can trust me the same way you trusted your father. And Eunice is not just talking a game. She puts in the work. She goes to college, gets her degree, starts teaching about some of the things her family went through in a college seminar. And this is when the movie's gonna jump forward in time, I believe 20 some years, 24, 27, something like that. We see her now in a flat. The youngest daughter is now the only one left in the house, and she's about to leave as well. Eunice will officially be alone. A woman who was kind of looking forward to that day where she could spend it with her husband. This is the time the next punch to the gut is going to happen, when we see her son Marcelo, now in a wheelchair. Apparently at the age of 20, he fractured his spine diving. I don't believe the movie tells us how this happened. I looked it up afterwards to find out because I was curious. But yes, he's already been in a wheelchair for some time. And I guess he wrote a pretty damn good book about not just that, but his childhood in general. And it's a popular one. The reason, though, that we jump forward to this specific moment is because a major milestone is going to take place. You see, Eunice Paiva never remarried. I don't think the thought even occurred to her because she was still very much invested with her husband. A man, up until this point, whose disappearance is still shrouded in mystery. Well, she gets a phone call, and she heads down to the courthouse with her two kids. And she gets a document handed to her that's gonna fill in the final page of her scrapbook. And this is probably the third time in the movie where I was hit like a ton of bricks, because we don't find out, as I ignorantly thought, that the dad was gonna come back. That they found him. He'd been in hiding all these years. No. They are happy. They are jubilant to find out that their father, that her husband, has legally been pronounced dead because they get closure. They get a goodbye in a sense. Something that was stripped away from them all of these years. There's a part of their brain that's always working, always thinking about the what ifs. What happened to my father? Is he alive? Where is he at? And the reaction is immediate. It is bittersweet, but it's sweet all the same. A weight has been lifted off of them now. They can finally move on and honor a man who was worthy of honor. It's also around this time where Eunice will bring out one of the old family recordings, and she's going to put that up on the projector. This movie's over 2 hours long, and a lot of the Rubin stuff is handled within the first 45 minutes. So there's been a good chunk of time since we last saw him. But when he hits that screen again, and he smiles to his family, you feel it. You feel it. And you know what? I joke a lot on this channel. I like to have fun. I like to make people laugh. This is a very serious movie, I know, so I'm a bit more serious. I also have loss in my life. When I was 16, I lost my father in a car accident, so I too did not really get to say goodbye. I didn't get that final sense of closure, even though I knew the outcome. And no, it's not comparable to what these people went through. I had the privilege of at least knowing what happened. They did not. That was stripped away from them by a corrupt government that at the time didn't give two shits about the people that they damaged. We are going to do one final jump in this film, and it is a brutal one, where we see our lead protagonist now surrounded by all of her family members, and I believe she is 89 years old, somewhere around there. She is unable to speak. She's in a wheelchair. She has been suffering from a disease for the last 10 or 15 years. But there's a moment where she's sitting in the living room alone, the rest of the family outside, playing with their little ones now, building up their own families, getting ready to take a photo. That she is watching the TV, and on there, they are actually doing a documentary on what happened in the 1970s in Brazil and what they did to people. And they specifically cover a few men that went missing in that time, one of which is her husband. So she sees him once more. And when that face comes up, she actually leans forward. She perks up. She remembers him. It is a fleeting moment in time, and we get a quick shot of her son looking in at her, and he too notices what she's seen. It's brilliant how the director plays off the different perspectives in this film. It pulls you in. You feel several emotions at once throughout this. And it's the exact reason why this film is being recognized and why it is up for Academy Awards, and why, in my opinion, based on the films I have seen, it should be the winner. The final shot of the movie is perfect. She gets wheeled over with the rest of the family, front and center, all these new little ones running around trying to wrangle them together for this photo. And of course, we end on a smile. And I end my review on one as well. Listen, this is a tough film to watch, but there is beauty in it. The perseverance of people is absolutely astounding. You see folks that have it so hard, but they're able to rise to the challenge and actually better the people around them due to their inspiring stories. This is one such film. It's a film that I appreciate people bringing to my attention, and I'm glad I was able to talk about it again in a more in-depth conversation. I hope I did it justice, but I doubt that's the case. I appreciate you watching the channel. Again, I would encourage you to subscribe. Even though most of my videos are not going to be covering Brazilian films, occasionally I'll dip my toe in when one is recommended. But my ultimate goal is to entertain, have fun, hopefully put a smile on your face. And if I have, then I've done my job. Please think about sharing the video around, hitting the notification bell, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. Take care. Thanks again for watching the video. If you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate it if you checked out patreon.com/AdamDoesMovies. That's where fans of my channel go to help support it. There are different tiers with different offerings, exclusives every month. We got multiple movie reviews. There's a vlog monthly. And even if you don't want to plop down $1 a month, you can just sign up for Patreon for free and become a member at no charge. Appreciate your time. Thanks.